Okay, we're back, Real Life Lounge. We're on to a new episode and the start of a new series. In this series, we're going to tackle the 9 topics of the real life learning method curriculum, which is broken down into 9 subjects. We kind of previewed that last time, and today we're going to start with topic number 1. We're going to do kind of a preview of each of the 9. So what's topic number 1?
Yeah, so if you are watching this, but you don't know what the method is, go back and watch episode 22. We'll explain what it is, but it's our most homeschoolers are the ones that use it, but anyone can use this curriculum. So topic number 1 is growth mindset. We feel like there's so much power in the thoughts we tell ourselves, what we think about the situations we're going through. It's a really important part of real life learning and how you approach so many other topics and things in your life. When
I think back 40 years ago to when I was 7 years old, this topic generally didn't really exist.
Yeah.
So when we talk about what are the things we wanted to teach our kids that we didn't get when we were small, this is definitely one of those big ones. And a lot of this topic has to do with how do we understand our emotions, and then what can we do with those emotions? Generally, the answer is something the opposite of repressing them.
Yes, I will let you get into that in one second. So with each subject, we break down each subject into 4 different kind of subtopics meant to be approached in about a week's time. So the 4 subjects for growth mindset are growth mindset and self-talk, emotions and the emotional scale. So really helping kids identify how they're feeling, giving them the vocabulary to talk about their feelings. The 3rd week is processing those emotions. Okay, we've identified this. Now, how do we regulate our systems? How do we process and feel emotions in a healthy way? Just makes me think of inappropriate ways that I've processed emotions. When I was in high school, I think I have a lot of suppressed anger, and I punched a hole in the wall in my parents' house. So an example of ways to teach our kids alternative ways. You just
use a pillow instead of the wall.
Yeah. Well,
it's still okay to punch, but
I think I've released a lot of that anger, so it's not as built up anymore. But that was a large digression. Week 4 is mental well-being. So really talking, we feel like in the last several years in particular, there's been this spike in mental illnesses and depression and anxiety and just a lot of struggles with youth. And so we really wanted to make it a comfortable space for kids to talk about that. And when they're feeling these really big emotions that are beyond just naming their emotions, what to do, how to ask for help, taking away the shame around it. So that's week 4.
Yeah, and actually, topic number 2 is mental health and well-being. So topic number 1 is called growth mindset because it deals a little bit more with the self-awareness piece of your well-being so that the child can be in command or control of what's going on within. Instead of it being such a scary, unknown thing, we're trying to teach to is there a self-awareness that we understand what's happening so that we then can use the tools to try to navigate those things. And that's what a lot of growth mindset is about. So that if you imagine your children being lost in the sea of the scary world we live in, having some of the tools to be able to deal with the things that are happening inside of them that they can then deal with.
And navigating when someone says something to them that's hurtful or more about that person, but it's coming at them. What is their internal dialogue around that? How do they process that? How do they, not make it a part of who they are?
So the evidence in today's world that this is an important thing for our kids is that so many of adults that are our age, and I will include myself in this, is that we're doing this what's called inner child work, where we literally are going back and discovering those things that we experienced as children. And then we took those experiences and created a story. No matter how false it might have been, it became a real story to us. And then we lived into the future with that story dictating and narrating in the background. And then going back as an adult and trying to undo some of that and unravel it is super hard, a little scary, and very messy. And if we can cut some of that out by understanding and having the right conversations with our kids while they're kids, and giving them those tools, we can hopefully avoid a lot of that kind of traumatic work down the road, right?
Maybe a little less therapy.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and like so many of like my generation grew up with the previous generation who was very much like the, brush it off, you're fine, get up, be tough, don't think about yourself so much, like that kind of mentality, because those parents were the children of the Great Depression generation, right? So these things passed down generation to generation, and we're kind of living in an era now where like, okay, let's cut some of those generational ties that are kind of bogging us down, and let's just start dealing with some of these things that are going on inside of us so that we don't deal with it way later on in life. That's what this whole growth mindset topic and month is about. You have a question for me?
Well, what were emotions like? I mean, you've already kind of alluded to it, but how did you deal with them in your house? What kind of tools did your parents give you? Yes, it was a little taboo to even like say how you were feeling, because that was an uncomfortable conversation to begin with. So that conversation, it became apparent that conversation didn't even work to even happen in order to deal with those emotions. So then quickly you learn to not even talk about your emotions. So that was kind of the environment I grew up in, is like, we don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about emotions, right? So if you, time after time after time as a child, are conditioned to not talk about emotions, you, over time, suppress them all. In my case, my emotions literally got trapped in my body and in the source of back pain. I'm absolutely 100% convinced of that. So I know not everyone like subscribes to that way of thinking, or they just may not understand it yet. Yeah. So that's, like, I'm not alone. Obviously, so many of us grew up in a way that this just wasn't part of the vernacular. It wasn't the part of like how we talked amongst each other. And so like, let's undo that, and let's dig in, and let's get after it. So that's what subject 1 is all about: growth mindset, emotions, really helping our kids have that vocabulary and learning how to communicate and process those emotions in a healthy way, so they're not stuck in their bodies and creating lots of issues later in life. All right. That's that episode. We will see you next week for part 3, which is physical wellness. Oh, yeah. See you next time.